Here's me going page by page through the exact application that got me into MIT. My name is Ruben Steven. I'm a sophomore studying mechanical engineering and computer science. And today I'm going page by page through the entirety of the application. What buttons are each of my responses pushing? What does that show the academic advisors? And then how can you emulate and put that into yours? I think the core principle out of anything else I did was to be true and authentic to my personal experience. I just had a story. You have a story too. I was just answering all the questions candidly. Why do you want to go to MIT? What was the driver of your successes? Spite and anger about the fact that I was broke. I woke up every day angry and mad about my circumstances, and that pushed me to go put in work, and eventually that got me here. But that being said, if y'all don't want me, y'all, I'll go do it myself. On my chest and on my soul. Like, even if I were to get kicked out today, I swear to God, I'm touching a band. I swear to everything I love, there's no way I leave this earth without 500 M's in the bank at least, bro. Nobody's taking that from me. Like, money, sure, I don't care, but nobody's taking that drive away from me. Nobody's taking that desire away from me, bro. And it's like, how did I achieve that? I was gonna say pressure makes diamonds, but that's a little bit too much self-glaze. Necessity is the father of all invention, right? So it's like, we needed money so bad that I'm like, okay, what is available to me? What do I happen to be good at? I can do academics. All right, we're going full send math and science. What are the most I can get out of here? You go to MIT, become top engineer, and then you get the highest engineering job. But I hit sophomore year, read the 4-hour work week, realized that, like, dog, that can only do so much. Like, 100K a year, you're still someone's lackey. And it's like, dang. What was the point then? I'm going to do this from core principles, right? Like, I don't know the specific tactics of, like, oh, what is an MIT admissions officer specifically looking for? Like, what keywords or whatever. I feel like that's just overall a bad strategy to apply, because if your strategy is I'm going to lean on these hacks and tactics in order to get me in, what happens when the meta changes? I believe it's way more effective to put your, like, faith, your eggs in the basket of I have something that is fundamental and universal to whichever school I may be applying to, which is myself and my story, because it's just true, as opposed to I'm going to bend and fold and, like, contort myself and who I actually am to, like, say something that I think they like. So first page is demographics and just biological information, like born in West Palm Beach, Caribbean, born to Haitian immigrants. I don't particularly hold my personal life in too high of a regard. It's like knowing this information about me doesn't really change too much. So, very dysfunctional family. Mother and father are separated in every way possible except legally. Paperwork has never been filed due to cost. My mother is my primary caretaker. She pays all the bills and receives no financial help since they are technically still married. Parent 2. I don't have a parent 2 because he's a bum. Don't speak to this parent. This parent provides no aid, support, or assistance that would make them fit for the title of a father. Therefore, they are not listed. Big facts to this day. Like I said, can't say I necessarily hate the dude, because hate would give that person too much, like, significance or value. They're a bum. So, youngest of 6 siblings. Also interesting, the only person to have gone to college, and I ended up going here. Next, financial documents, I guess. My mom works as a nurse. So this is like estimations, because as a result of being a first generation immigrant without access to a lot of resources, her financials are kind of cooked. Next, my mother works as an RN, so her pay has increased significantly in the last 2 years due to the pandemic. But with the pandemic becoming slightly less prominent, she has not been receiving as many hours or overtime as of late. Total value of parents checking the savings, 3 bands, maybe. There's not really much lessons to be gained here. This is just context as to who I am and, like, what it is that I was dealing with when I was writing this. Taking any AP courses, yes. AP, IB, got my IB diploma. So, academic and career interests. My top 3 academic areas of interest include engineering, mechanical engineering, and computer engineering, which is like CS. Top 3 career interests are being an engineer, a skilled trade like an electrician or carpenter, or scientific researcher, being a biologist or a physicist. What are your career goals and how did you develop them? As of right now, my primary career goals are to secure employment at a job as a mechanical engineer to where I can make high 5 to low 6 figures by the time I am 25. Again, right, going back to, like, what are my motivations and why it is that I might be chafing now, this was a financial decision I was making. It wasn't necessarily love of the game. It's I need money to fix this situation. Somebody else's application probably got to this point and said, I want to change the world, or, like, I want to become the best engineer ever. No, that was not my motivation. My motivation is I need to fix this problem, which is money. How do I fix this problem that is money? My tool of choice is going to be this engineering salary, because it's like I could go become a doctor, but it would make me want to die because I don't want to stay in school for that long. Same thing with being a lawyer. The way I developed these goals was by filtering my options for what I thought could not only help ensure financial security, but could also do good for the world at large. SAT score 1520, 750 on the English, 770 on math. That's why I'm an SAT math tutor, because high key, I'm just better at that. Didn't take the ACT. AP exams, PCC Mechanic, Physics C, ENM, AP Lit, AP Stats, AP Lang, AP Physics 2, AP Calc AB, AP Gov, AP World, and then AP Physics 1. These ones, I don't even remember the scores. All I know is I got my IB diploma. 'Cause by the time I got to like that period of my life, I stopped caring about school and I was kind of just going through the motions. But jobs I was working. So what use have you put your earnings? So like I'll apply. One being to provide what help I could to my mother in the house, and two, in order to buy myself a car for transportation, as there was no other savings or fund for me to do so otherwise. Is there anything else you would like us to know about your paid work? On nights where I would have to work late after school, there would often instances where I would run into trouble with getting assignments in on time because I had a shift, or I would show up to school or an exam with very little sleep, sometimes none at all, and would struggle to stay awake in classes, especially during basketball season where I would also be physically exhausted a lot. So, I don't want to just make it complaining, but like something else that I believe helped make me stand out as a candidate was this additional factor of working a job. So it's like I wasn't able to do any ISF or like IFO or like math competitions, etc., because like I have to pay bills. I have to pay for my car. And being completely honest, like, let's just talk about it. I have a chip on my shoulder about the fact that I feel as though a lot of people who are in the same spaces as me, even when I was in high school and especially now at MIT, have life way more sweet than I did. And so it's like your mother and father are driving you to and from all of these different competitions or whatever. I don't have a dad who could give two shits about what I do, and my mom is always at work. And even then, if she wasn't, she just doesn't have money or like time or space to be taking me places. And so I felt really like I was on my own for a lot of this, bro. That's a part that like low-key makes me angry and feels like a little bit alienated from these people. Like we just come from two very different worlds. And it's like I can't be certain that it is what got me in, but I feel as though there's a level of maturity that comes as a result of having to work and like put yourself through things like this that I was able to communicate in my application. Obviously, like I'm biased because like okay, it's what do I think is the most valuable about myself. I believe that through this I show that I'm a dog. Specifically, okay, like translate that. What does being a dog mean? It's the ability to overcome adversity and to deal with times of hardship without cracking under the pressure. Not only do you not crack under the pressure, but rising to the occasion and beyond said occasion, right? So like given the circumstances I was given, the fact that I even got to college, it's a variation from the norm. All of my siblings were given the same sort of circumstances more or less, and they got through high school kind of. I not only got through high school, but I excelled in high school. Activity. I played high school basketball. Honestly, I was actually mids at basketball if I'm keeping it a being, bro. Bench warmer junior and senior year. In my defense, they went D1. The people I was like behind. Because like, bro, I'm like 6'3", and like I was in the center position behind a dude that was 6'10", and it's like, bro, you're not getting on the court. He's 6'10". And it's like, all right, cool, I guess. But it did teach me a lot about discipline. Senior year, I was looking just there for like my friends, and it taught me a lot about how to deal with like you're not important here. How do you earn your value or your worth in different ways? Oh yeah, I also played volleyball, track and field, Black Student Union. That's the one thing I put here, but I know I did a bunch of other clubs as well. So, if I had to choose a single commitment to list as the most meaningful during my time in high school, it would have to be participating in the boys basketball team. The reason why this commitment was so meaningful to me is because in addition to instilling in me the important lessons about discipline and value of hard work, it also caused me by necessity to learn how to balance and manage my time. Tell us about one of your proudest achievements or moments and what it says about you. The accomplishment that I am the most proud of up to this point in my life is the purchasing of my car. While this admittedly is somewhat basic, the reason this accomplishment means so much to me is the work that it took to get there. The financial situation of my family made it to where there was essentially no chance that I was going to receive any help in the form of a fund, savings, or any help at all, really. So beginning sophomore year, I began working nights and weekends as a waiter and a busser to try and save what I could. And one detail I remember vividly was the night of New Year's Eve 2022, where I slept on the floor of a bathroom at work because I clocked out at 2 a.m., I didn't have money for an Uber, and had to be back there again at 8 a.m. to work another shift. So while it is just a car, it means a bit more to me than just transportation. The primary characteristic that I believe that this highlights about me is my ability to persist in the face of adversity and to delay gratification. Which, going back to like that meta perspective, like what am I communicating to an academic advisor? This is more like explicit, like I'm telling you, hey, I can persist in the face of adversity and I can delay gratification, which are aspects that you would definitely need as a college student, specifically at MIT, because boy, am I having to deal with a bunch of adversity, and boy, the gratification here delayed. If you could meet a character from a book or historical figure, who would it be and what would you ask them? So, if I could meet a single historical figure, it would likely be Marcus Aurelius. Due to his unique position as one of the most powerful and influential figures in history, who was an exception in that he did not allow the unchecked power to corrupt him. Having read some of his works and meditations, the primary questions I would ask him would be in regards to his Stoic philosophy and how it is that he managed to maintain such a high level of introspection and balance considering the responsibilities he bore. What is your favorite subject to study and why? I would have to say that my favorite subjects to study would be the sciences, physics and psychology in particular, due to a deep desire that I've always had to understand the world around me. You know what's also interesting, to that point of like why I've fallen off in terms of my love of the game, I really think it's just that like it's always been physics and psychology, but then psychology has taken a higher seat since like that sophomore year. And that's like been reflected in my higher interest in like business and like entrepreneurship because Essentially, business is just psychology, but applied. The same way that engineering is applied physics, business is psychology applied to making money. Mind you, if you go back up there, one of my primary objectives and values is ensuring that I have financial security. So like, yeah, I haven't really changed that much. It's just like my love for physics has like dampened a bit because it's become so math intensive right now. And I'm like, brother, this is painful to deal with. What are your favorite books and or movies? Ender's Game trilogy, the Harry Potter series, the 4-Hour Workweek, Crime and Punishment, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, Limitless by Jim Quick, Maze Runner series. Oh, brother, I forgot I read that. Song of Ice and Fire. I should not have been reading that in middle school probably, but I remember being in 6th grade reading whichever one is green. Yeah, it was this green one, bro. We were doing an assembly for like honor roll, and like they called up my name, and I low-key didn't get up on time because I was locked in reading this, bro. Like I think I was reading The Red Wedding or something like that, but that's actually crazy. What is your favorite source of inspiration? My favorite source of inspiration are real-life models or examples of where I would like to be in life and the books or content that these people put out. How do you spend a typical weekend? Over a typical weekend, after clearing out my school obligations, I usually spend my time at work playing basketball or spending time with friends or family. What compliment are you most proud of receiving and who gave it to you? The compliment I'm most proud of came from one of my middle school teachers who said something along the lines of, if I had half your work ethic at your age, I'd be a millionaire by now. Yeah, like I like to take pride in my work ethic because I like being a dog. Honestly, it's not fully done. The shift from putting my identity in like being smart versus I'm a person who works hard. Smart is the outcome, works hard is the input. You'll get seen as smart because you have good grades or whatever it is, but like that comes from the fact of putting in those nights or like those hours where it's like you're tired, you got a basketball practice, you don't want to do this, but like I'm still doing calculus or I'm watching those like organic chemistry tutor videos, bro. Shout out to him, he's a goat. After a challenging experience, how do you rejuvenate? After a challenging experience, the primary way that I rejuvenate includes sleeping, resting, or immersing myself in something such as work or basketball to take my mind off of it. What would you contribute to your future college campus community? The main thing that I believe I could contribute to my future college community of learners is a unique and distinct perspective and voice, and an ability to express that voice to help others. We are interested in learning more about the context in which you have grown up, formed your aspirations, and accomplished your successes. Please describe how the most influential factors and challenges in your life have shaped you into the person you are today. All right, let's go. So before I attempt to answer any other aspect of this question, I must first make it clear that who I am today is an amorphous plurality of traits, beliefs, and values that is constantly updating. And although I would like to believe that I have had a good deal of experiences in the time I've been alive so far, it would be short-sighted of me to think that I have anywhere near a complete picture of who it is I actually am or who I will become to be. So, okay, right, before we continue anything right there, I believe that what this line did for me is that it showed a level of self-awareness that I don't know for a fact that everybody else who's applying to colleges like at 17 or 18 might have. Nevertheless, I do still believe that I have at least enough self-awareness and experience with myself to draw some basic connections, albeit crudely, between the values, aspirations, and worldviews I currently hold and the factors that shaped them. So the first thing I did with like these first 2 paragraphs is I pretty much set the context of like, hey, this question is kind of stupid. Not stupid, but it's like expecting me to put the entirety of my essence within 800 words is honestly just a ridiculous task. First and foremost, I can't give you everything. Second of all, like asking me, I'm like 17, bro. I don't know everything about myself. There's so much more to learn. The effect of having that as my intro is that it communicates a level of self-awareness like, oh, wait, this kid's not a complete bot. Cool. Having established that I am by no means a stagnant entity, if I were to answer the question of who it is exactly that I am today, the first and most vivid things to come to my mind are the words visionary and resolute. While this is an egregious oversimplification and might come off as somewhat arrogant, it seems to be the best distillation I can muster of what it is that I am trying to communicate. Another thing that I realized, bro, my reading level jumps high as when I go into essay format. Because like I do have a very like strong vocabulary as a result of reading all the freaking like gigantic books. Right? Not gigantic, but like I would say that these very much helped in terms of like fostering the vocabulary that I'm applying here. Since I have that bag, when pushed, I will use it. I don't know to which degree that helped me, but it definitely did. Like having that strong like linguistic ability. More specifically, what I mean to say is that I would describe myself as someone who possesses a clear vision of where it is they want to be, what it is they would like to achieve, and has committed themselves with steadfast conviction to see it actualized. To those ends, I have resolved myself to endure any challenges, obstacles, or setbacks that may appear on my path, so long as I still achieve what it is I set out for. Moreover, I am also of the belief that some obstacles and situations leave a deeper and longer lasting impact on a person than others, and if I were to identify a primary cause for the goals and beliefs that I have adapted up until this point, it would have to be a deep dissatisfaction with the circumstances of my home life, specifically in regards to socioeconomic status. To avoid mincing words, I come from a low-income household. It is one of the greatest sources of stress in my life, and it is my deepest imperative to make that fact change. While I can thankfully say that we've never been homeless, there were definitely times where we came pretty close, and I have never forgotten what that anxiety feels like. One of the most distinctive aspects of my childhood I can remember is an underlying cloud of disappointment and anger. I remember being younger, before I had developed a real concept of money, and just being angry a lot because I couldn't wrap my head around the why. Why couldn't we stop at McDonald's? Why did I have to wear my brother's old uniform? Why did we never get presents on Christmas? The other kids got them, so why not us? I I remember being told I was gifted in grade school and thinking it must have been some sort of sick joke. It actually made me livid, being honest, and the better I did, the more frustrated I became. Every award that I won, every accolade I received during that time, all of them were tainted with the bleak understanding that it still wouldn't entitle me to the lifestyle of my peers. Damn, bro. I feel that shit in my chest to this day, bro. It feels like nothing I do will ever be enough. And if I'm taking myself back to like where I was, not even just writing this, but like going back to like the experience that I'm like writing about, bro. I remember it because like, yeah, my mom or dad, for every A I get like $30. Or like if I get straight A's, I like they'll take me. It's like, damn, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I'm getting too emotional about this. But there was a point, I forget exactly when it stopped, but there was a point of like, dang, maybe if I just do better, if I do enough here, like if I get more straight A's, like maybe then they'll love me or like they'll give a shit. It's like, damn, bro. It don't matter. You got to give it to yourself. The more healed place I've come to now is that like, if you want that validation or that like pat on the back, little bro, if you want to hear a good job, you got to do it yourself. And it's also like a part that like y'all can probably relate to this too, because it's not the exact same. But after a certain point, especially if you've been continuing with that level of like high achievement, it becomes expected of you. It's not like, oh wow, good job, you got an A. It's you're supposed to get an A. Why do you have a B? Like, what are you doing? And it's like that would make me livid, because especially like with my circumstances, my mom, she didn't know what was going on in the classes. She would just be like, do good in school. Like, no, you can do it, XYZ. But it's like if I ever had a problem, like if I ever like I had a question on my math homework, there was no going to my parents or my older siblings because they didn't know. I was doing like calculus or whatever as a sophomore in high school. So it was like, who you're really going to ask? It might have been like one time when she was like, oh yeah, what are we doing in terms of school? And then like I like low-key flip because like I don't want to hear nothing from nobody, bro. I don't get no help. Every award that I won, every accolade I received during that time, all of them are tainted with the bleak understanding that it still wouldn't entitle me to the lifestyle of my peers. No matter how hard I worked or how well I may have done, it still didn't change the fact that there was no safety net waiting for me like the other kids. No report card could save me from the fact that I might go home that day to a house with no electricity, or that I would go days without seeing my mother since she would be working from when I returned until I left the next day. There was sadness at first, then anger, envy, and indignation, respectively. But more than anything else, what I would say that I've taken from those experiences is a deep and all-consuming hunger. The realization wasn't immediate, but it's dawned on me over time that anger in itself has no edge. Only when focused can anger be productive, and that's what I've attempted to do. There's nothing I can honestly say drives me more than my desire to improve my economic situation. I eat, sleep, and breathe my reason why every morning when I wake up and every night when I go to sleep. It's not only a desire, but an obligation for me to secure financial stability, not only for myself, but for my children and their children as well, to make sure that no one else after me has to grow up in the same conditions that I did. Lil homie was spitting, bro. I'm not gonna like, to this day, that still remains true for me, bro. And it was really just being able to communicate that I feel helped me. Describe an experience that caused you to change your perspective and or opinion. A pivotal experience in my life that I could point to as having caused me to significantly change my perspective and opinion on things that would have to be my experience during the pandemic lockdown. When it first hit, I was a freshman in high school, and while we never fully acclimated, I was able to finish out the year. My sophomore year rolled around, however, and I was to attend the entirety of the year virtually. I began to run into some major issues. While ending the previous year virtually had been somewhat jarring, sophomore year was particularly difficult due to the amount of higher level or rigorous coursework I was taking. 5 out of 7 of my classes that year were advanced placement tests, which is without mentioning the additional FLVS and dual enrollment classes I was taking simultaneously. The escalation in academic intensity was also accompanied by real-world problems that were occurring around me from the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent economic downturn, all of which contributed to an environment in which the stress levels were, in short, higher than optimal. A subpar environment, constant distractions, and a lack of resources all contributed to making the situation very challenging, especially considering the disconnection from any sort of tangible support structures that would typically be provided by teachers. The lived experience of the situation felt somewhat akin to being left to drown or fend for oneself, while more and more weight was added to one's ankles. It was somewhere within this challenge that I believe I hit my lowest point academically, both in terms of performance, motivation, and overall will to continue. I essentially hit the proverbial wall. Bro, okay, meta perspective, bro. The question is like, describe an experience that caused you to change your perspective. I kind of answered the question of like, tell us about a challenge or something that was particularly hard and how you overcame it. I feel like that's the overarching theme of my entire application, overcoming adversity. And like I said, like as someone like a admissions officer, who is Ruben Steven? That's a dog, nigga. Like fuck everything else, I'm a dog, bro. Like put some in front of me, I will get through it on my life. I don't know about MIT though. Awesome, real bro. This is hard as hell, bro. This is hard as hell, and I'm still gonna get through it because I'm a dog. Like I refuse to be a bum. I don't care what it is. Like I'm gonna get through it, bro. And I feel like that has helped me through so much and will continue to help me through. Like the fact that I put my identity based on my ability to overcome adversity. And so that's what I was trying to communicate here. Okay, boom. In terms of like storytelling, you have a status quo, you have something that interrupts the status quo, and then you have the solution to that and how you return to form. The status quo was like, I'm doing decent in school. The interruption of that status quo was the pandemic and like getting sent home and not having access to any of the resources of my like somewhat magnet school. It's still a public school, but it had like more resources than like my neighborhood. And so I was like, oh, I can't go there no more. I'm really just by myself in this house that doesn't have like again, we might not have power this week because someone didn't pay the bill. Or it's like, oh, we might not have internet because of the same reason. Having to deal with that on top of like, bro, I'm taking like 10 classes. Yeah, bro, I took like 10 classes as a sophomore, right? 7 classes, 5 of them were AP. I was taking like AP Physics, AP Stats, AP Calc, AB, AP Gov, and then AP Lang, MYP Spanish 2, and then MYP Chemistry. Those are my 7 classes for high school. And then I was also taking like AP Environmental Science on FLVS. And then I was taking 2 dual enrollment classes per semester through the local state college, which is why I ended up having my associates done by the time I graduated high school. And while from one perspective that could have been the perfect excuse needed to quit, that situation was actually a catalyst for the exact opposite reaction. Despite, and in some ways because of this great difficulty, I was able to recenter and reform the core traits within myself that made me a committed learner. Since I had no tangible external support, I took it upon myself to systematize and refine my study habits or learning routines and to take into my own hands acquisition of material. This was by no means an easily accomplished feat, and I would be lying if I said there weren't things that I could have done better or improved on looking back. Nevertheless, the result of that effort and sacrifice was validated at the end of the year when not only did I pass my AP exams, but was rewarded with a 2021 AP Scholar Award for my performance as well. Going through that situation was unlike anything I had experienced before, and by going through it, I had not only learned a lot about the value of hard work and individual determination, but had developed and matured as a person as well, fundamentally changing the lens through which I viewed myself and the world around me. Because it was like describing an experience that caused you to change your perspective and your opinion. So it's like, I thought stuff was sweet. I got my teeth kicked in by them classes. I realized that I was a dog. Pretty much. It's like, I realized I was a dog, and so y'all should know it too. A full picture of who you are can strengthen your application. In this section, we encourage you to include any additional information or context that will complete your story and help us get to know you better. This could include details you were not able to include elsewhere, such as your relationship to a non-custodial parent, extra medical expenses, or other special circumstances. We also understand that the global pandemic and other recent events have been uniquely challenging for many students, and you can use this space to provide any details you think we should know. So, I haven't read this part in a little bit, but I just read the first line. It's like, it's about my dad. And keeping it a beat, I was about to say, I hate that nigga. Hate is poison that you take and hope that the other person dies from. That's not wise. And so, I've been trying to be a little bit more healed about how do I frame that story to myself. It's not going to be as a victim because that's a disempowering thought. And it's also, even though I hate him and I'm doing it in spite of him and I'm never going to be like him, it's also giving up too much of my own power to somebody else. Same thing with not being able to forgive. It's a burden that you're carrying and hoping that they slow down from. It's like, no. You're forgiving for you, not for them. But the formative years of my life have been spent without a father, and the reverberations of that fact are embedded deeply in my worldview. Even during the period where he was an active figure in my life, the majority of what I recall includes him and my mother constantly fighting, which isn't exactly the most comforting situation for a child to be in. I remember being young and literally not knowing what a functional family looked like until I went over to friends' houses. As it stands now, the financial support received from that individual has literally been zero for nearly a decade now, and the result of these circumstances is that the majority of the financial burden for a 5-person household has subsequently been placed on my mother. I have no better way to describe the effect this has had than to say that it has literally eaten at my spirit. Seeing my mother struggle as she has, working from the time I came back from school to the time I woke up, just to barely make ends meet has done something irreversible to my temperament that I couldn't even begin to describe. I've experienced firsthand that life is not fair, that a lot of people are victims of circumstance, and that even if you work night and day with all your conviction, there's still no guarantee that your work will pay off. My resolution in the face of this, as I've said it before, is to amass an egregious amount of wealth and to ensure that whatever I have to do was to get there, any children I may have will never have to experience the same sort of life that I did. The specifics of how I will achieve this are yet to be determined, however, I'm convinced it is an inevitability. The assistance of the QuestBridge Foundation would be greatly appreciated, but with or without it, the mission will still be accomplished, lest I die trying. That last part is kind of corny, I'm not gonna lie, it's like, nigga, you think you're 50 Cent, whatever, but on my soul, I stand by that to this day. Even if I didn't get into MIT, even if they kick me out tomorrow, I will go get the bag, regardless. It's not an if, it's a when for me, dog. I can't tell anybody how to do this because it comes straight from my gut. It's not like I thought about, like, oh, they're gonna like this. It's, nah, dead ass. From my chest, if y'all don't want me, I'm gonna keep it pushing. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some academic advisor who like knows all the tips and tricks might be like, oh, this was too much or whatever. But that's another thing too. I didn't have anybody in my corner or in my ear. I did all my applications by my goddamn self because I didn't have anybody like baby or spoon feeding me, nothing. Like even the kids that I went to school with, right? They just had way more resources than I did, dog. And I'm not gonna lie, to this day, it puts a chip on my shoulder, dog. Where it's like, I feel like, yeah. you're whining and you're being like, oh my god, poor me, man, 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 because there's somebody who has like worse conditions than you do. Like, this was annoying, sure, but it's like, dog, I have on my limb, like, I was in America still, so it's like, I wasn't gonna, like, completely die or go hungry, like, the lights might have been off, like, we might not have had food in the crib, but it's like, if I really, really, really needed to, there's friends' houses I could have potentially gone to. That's also my pride, where it's like, I might just eat, sleep for dinner instead of asking anybody, but there were options for me, as opposed to, like, someone who's born, I don't know, like, the Middle East or something, where they're literally just, like, go ask your homeboys, they don't got nothing either. It's like, oh, we might just be cooked. And so I'm very immensely grateful for the fact that I spawned into the location that I did, because I feel as though they were enough to make me hungry. And as a result, I have this like burning passion for more, but it wasn't so bad that it was like impossible for me to find a way out. And so I believe I might have got the best of both worlds. Just uncomfortable enough to make yourself a stronger person, but not so uncomfortable that like all your energy and mental capacity had to go to pure survival. Like, I was working in order to like help pay bills and like pay for my car, etc. I had the privilege of being able to put enough of my time towards studying and academics. And a hikey, that was my mic drop too, so it's kind of funny. Yeah, basically, my dad's a bum. Seeing my mom struggle ate at my soul. And as a result, I'm like, I refuse to be a victim. I can't let this continue. And so that's why I put in the sweat equity to get my associates done and like do all those sweat activities in high school so that I can change the trajectory of my family. That being said, it was a pleasure. Catch you on the next one. And real quick, since you've watched this far, I wanted to bring your attention to some other resources and services I have available on my link tree if that's something you'd be interested in. First things first, we have the Learn Well Blueprint. If you go here, fill out this email, you'll get a link to this document. And essentially what it is, it's a goal setting and journaling exercise designed to help you take your dreams into goals, into plans, into reality by making you identify what your strong why is, your specific what, your systematic how, bringing those all together into a specific mission statement and giving you additional tools for getting back on track and keeping yourself locked in. Other than that, we also have SAT math tutoring. If you're a current high school junior or senior looking to improve your SAT score, hop on a consultation call and we can talk more about what we can do to help you get there. If you're looking for more comprehensive advice, coaching, and mentorship, we also have Learn Well Society. What it is a community for driven students that value productivity, academics, mental wellness, self-development, and entrepreneurship. The reason why I founded the community is because a lot of these high-achieving type people jump from hoop to hoop without ever asking what it's all for. The Learn Well Society is about more than just academics. Like, obviously, those are important, but the idea is to take those skills and like mastering the game that is academics and then channeling that expertise and know-how into a life of freedom and autonomy. And the primary ways we help you do that are with transformation tools like the Learn Well Blueprint, as well as exclusive access to the Learn Well podcast. And essentially what it is a bunch of conversations that I'm having with different MIT students, MIT alumni, Harvard students, CEOs, etc., trying to ask them about the habits, strategies, and mindsets that help them achieve the successes that they have, as well as going forward. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, then join the community today and I'll see you on the inside.